She'd been sitting there for 10 hours, not wandering, not begging, not even looking for help, just waiting, like someone told her not to move. I know what you're thinking. A stray dog on a New Jersey roadside. Probably got loose, probably confused. That's what I thought too when I first drove past that quiet stretch of road near the state line. Dogs get lost all the time, right? They chase squirrels, slip their collars, wander off. But here's the thing, nobody tells you about dogs who wait. They don't wait for nothing. This one, I'd later learn her name was Willow. She wasn't pacing the shoulder looking for an opening in traffic. She wasn't limping or favoring a paw. She wasn't doing any of the things lost dogs do. She was just sitting there, golden coat catching the last rays of afternoon light, head up, eyes locked on the road like she was expecting someone. I slowed down. My GPS told me to keep going. I had 20 minutes to get home before dark, before the rain everyone kept talking about rolled in. But I couldn't stop looking in my rearview mirror at that dog, sitting there like a statue while cars flew past close enough to ruffle her fur. Something about her felt wrong, like the world had moved on and she hadn't gotten the memo, like she knew something I didn't. I pulled over onto the shoulder about 50 yards ahead and watched through my side mirror. Willow didn't move, didn't even turn to look at my car. The shoulder wasn't wide. The road wasn't busy, but it wasn't empty either. Every time a sedan or pickup passed, she flinched, just barely, and her ears would lift. Then the car would disappear, and her ears would drop again. Over and over, hope and disappointment on a loop. I opened my door. The November air bit at my face, colder than I expected. Bare trees lined both sides of the road, their branches like skeletal fingers against a dimming sky. The kind of empty, in-between place where you wouldn't want to be stranded after dark. But Willow had been here all day. I approached slowly, the way you're supposed to with strange dogs. Hands visible, voice soft, no direct eye contact. "Hey girl, you okay?" Nothing. Not a glance. Her eyes stayed fixed on the road behind me, watching for something I couldn't see. That's when I noticed the details. The worn red collar around her neck, clean but faded. The patch of ground she was sitting on, slightly compressed, like she'd been there long enough to leave an impression. A plastic water bottle lying on its side a few feet away, untouched. Someone else had stopped. Someone else had tried. If Willow's story is already pulling at your heart, don't just scroll past. Hit subscribe and be part of the community that believes every dog's story matters, even the ones that break your heart. One click, that's all it takes. I crouched down about 6 feet from her, giving her space. "Where is your person, huh?" Her tail didn't wag. Her body didn't relax, but something shifted in her eyes, just for a second, like she understood the question but didn't know how to answer it. That's when it hit me. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't a dog who got loose and couldn't find her way home. This was obedience. Someone had told her to stay, and she was still obeying. I pulled out my phone, checked the time. Almost 6 p.m. The sun was already sinking below the tree line, shadows stretching long across the asphalt. How long had she been here? How long was she planning to stay? A pickup truck blew past, way too close, and Willow's whole body tensed. For a moment, I thought she'd bolt. Finally, some survival instinct kicking in, but she didn't. She just sat there, shaking slightly, watching the truck disappear down the road. Then her ears lifted again. Another engine, same pitch, same rumble. She stood halfway up, front paws shifting, body coiled like she was about to run toward it. My heart lurched. I started to reach for her collar. But the car passed, and Willow sat back down. I exhaled. She didn't. That's when I knew whoever she was waiting for, she thought they were coming back. Okay, I whispered, more to myself than to her. Okay, we're gonna figure this out. I stood up, pulled my jacket tighter, and did the only thing I could think of. I went back to my car, grabbed the emergency blanket from my trunk and the granola bar from my glove box, and came back. Willow still hadn't moved. I set the blanket down beside her, not on her, just near her, and unwrapped the granola bar, held it out. She sniffed the air. Her eyes flicked toward me just once, then back to the road. She didn't take it. I sat down on the damp shoulder a few feet away and waited with her. The wind picked up. Darkness crept in. Cars passed one by one, their headlights slicing through the growing gloom. And Willow sat exactly where she'd been told to, watching the road with a loyalty that was starting to feel unbearable to witness. That's when I realized I wasn't going anywhere. Not until I found out who she was waiting for and why they never came back. Yesterday was supposed to be simple. Drive home from my sister's place in Princeton, stop for gas, maybe grab takeout. Normal Thursday things, the kind of routine that doesn't leave room for roadside vigils with dogs who refuse to be saved. But here I was, sitting on cold asphalt as the temperature dropped, watching a golden retriever keep a promise to someone who wasn't coming back. I'd been there 20 minutes when I finally called my sister. Hey, I'm gonna be late. How late? Rachel's voice crackled through the speaker. I thought you left an hour ago. I did. I looked at Willow, still facing the road. There's a dog. Silence. Then, Nicole, no. I'm not bringing her home. I'm just making sure she's okay. That's what you said about the cat and the turtle. And that rabbit that turned out to have an owner 3 streets over. This is different. It's always different. I heard her sigh. Just be careful, okay? And call me when you get home. I hung up and slid the phone back into my pocket. Willow's ear twitched at the sound, but she didn't turn around. Her focus was absolute, single-minded, the kind of attention you give to something you can't afford to miss. I shifted closer, just a foot, and got my first real look at her. She was beautiful in that weathered way old things are beautiful. Her coat was golden red, darker along her back, lighter around her chest and legs, clean but not groomed. The kind of clean that comes from being cared for, even if that care had been a while ago. Her eyes were amber brown, rimmed with the faint cloudiness of age or exhaustion. I couldn't tell which. But it was her posture that broke me. Calm, eerily calm, like she'd made peace with waiting, even if it killed her. "You're tired, aren't you?" I said softly. Her tail didn't wag. Dogs always wagged when you spoke kindly to them. Always. Except this one. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out the granola bar again, unwrapped it slowly so the crinkling wouldn't startle her, broke off a piece and held it out, arm extended, palm flat. "Come on, girl. You have to be hungry." Willow glanced at my hand, just once. A quick flick of her eyes, acknowledgement without interest. Then back to the road. The granola bar stayed in my palm, getting warm and sticky. I set it down on the ground between us and leaned back, giving her space. A silver SUV roared past, close enough that I felt the rush of air. Willow didn't even blink. The car missed her by maybe 3 feet. My stomach twisted. "Jesus," I muttered. "You're gonna get yourself killed out here." But she wasn't scared. That was the worst part. She wasn't scared of the cars, wasn't scared of the dark creeping in, wasn't scared of me. She was just waiting. Like fear didn't matter anymore. Like nothing mattered except keeping her post. That's when I noticed the jacket. It was folded neatly on the grass a few yards behind her, navy blue, damp from the ground. Someone else's attempt at comfort. And next to it, half hidden in the weeds, was the plastic water bottle I'd seen earlier. Cap off. Empty. I stood slowly and walked over, picked up the jacket. It was heavy, men's size large, cold to the touch. Whoever left it hadn't come back for it. How many people had stopped today? How many had tried to help? Then given up when she wouldn't move. I draped the jacket over Willow's back, gently, barely touching her. She stiffened but didn't shake it off. Didn't lean into it either. Just tolerated it the way you tolerate things that don't matter. I crouched beside her again, this time close enough to see the details of her collar. Red nylon, frayed at the edges, no tag, no phone number, no name. But the buckle was adjusted recently. I could see the clean mark where the prong had been moved, contrasting with the faded holes below it. Someone had cared enough to adjust her collar. Someone had been taking care of her. "Where are they?" I whispered. Willow's breathing was steady. In, out, patient, endless. A sedan passed, dark blue, older model. Willow's whole body shifted. Her ears shot forward. Her front paws lifted slightly. Weight shifting like she was about to stand, about to run. The engine faded. She settled back down. My chest ached watching it. That flicker of hope, extinguished over and over. How many times had she done that today? 10? 50? 100? I pulled out my phone and checked the time. 6:47 p.m. The light was almost gone. The temperature had dropped at least 10 degrees since I'd stopped. And according to the weather app, rain was coming. Heavy rain within the hour. I should call someone. Animal control, the police, someone whose job it was to handle things like this. But something stopped me. If I called, they'd take her, load her into a truck, bring her to a shelter, put her in a kennel, and Willow would spend however long it took, days, maybe weeks, trying to get back to the spot. Back to the place she'd been told to wait. I looked at her, sitting there in the dying light, wrapped in a stranger's jacket, refusing food, refusing water, refusing everything except the chance to keep her promise. "You're not waiting for help," I said quietly. "You're waiting for someone." Willow's ear twitched. The sky above us had gone from purple to charcoal. The first stars were starting to show, and I realized with a sinking certainty that I wasn't leaving this road until I found out who she was waiting for, even if it took all night. The first raindrop hit my forehead at 7:15. I looked up at the sky, dark now, thick with clouds that had rolled in while I wasn't paying attention. Another drop landed on my cheek, then another. "Great," I muttered. Willow didn't react. Rain was just another thing happening around her, irrelevant to the task at hand. I shifted closer, close enough now that I could reach out and touch her if I wanted to, close enough to see the individual hairs of her coat, the slight rise and fall of her ribs with each breath, the way her eyes stayed locked forward with an intensity that felt almost human. "I'm just gonna check your collar, okay?" I said quietly. "See if there's something I missed." I reached out slowly, fingers extended. The moment my hand made contact with the worn nylon, Willow went rigid. Not aggressive, just tense. Every muscle in her body tightened like she was bracing for something, but she didn't pull away. Didn't growl, didn't even turn her head. She just endured it. I worked my fingers under the collar, feeling for a tag, a microchip bump, anything. The fabric was soft with age, the edges frayed from years of wear. The metal buckle was cool against my fingertips. And there, right there, I felt it again. The fresh adjustment. Someone had tightened this collar recently, within the last few weeks, maybe. The leather tang looked almost new compared to the sun-faded rest, but no tag, no engraving, nothing. "Who are you?" I whispered, letting my hand drop. "Who do you belong to?" Willow's body relaxed the moment I stopped touching her, but she still didn't look at me. It was like I was a ghost. Present, but not real, not important. A truck rumbled in the distance, low, diesel-heavy. Willow's ears shot forward. Her whole body shifted. She stood, actually stood, front legs straightening, haunches rising. Her tail lifted slightly, just a fraction. And for one breathless second, I thought she was going to run toward the sound. I held my breath. The truck got louder, closer. Willow took a step forward, then another, her body vibrating with anticipation. The truck passed. White cab, commercial plates, wrong vehicle. Willow's ears dropped. Her tail lowered. She walked back to her spot and sat down, settling into the same position she'd held for hours. My heart was still pounding. "It's okay," I said, though I wasn't sure if I was talking to her or to me. "It's okay." But it wasn't okay. Nothing about this was okay. I ran a hand through my hair, realized it was shaking. When was the last time I'd felt something this intensely? This helpless watching something hurt and being unable to fix it. Not since Mom. The thought came unbidden, unwelcome. I pushed it away, but it lingered anyway. That same feeling, sitting in a hospital room, watching someone you love wait for something that isn't coming. Watching hope die slowly in increments too small to measure but too painful to ignore. "I don't know what I'm doing here," I said aloud, to Willow, to the empty road, to myself. "I don't even like dogs that much. I'm a cat person. Cats make sense. You feed them, they tolerate you, everyone's happy." Willow's ear twitched. "But you're out here breaking your own heart over and over, and I can't just leave you. Is that stupid? That feels stupid." Headlights appeared in the distance. I stood up, waved my arms as the car approached. A gray Honda sedan slowed, window rolling down. An older man, 60s maybe, worn baseball cap. "You okay?" he called out. "Do you know this dog?" I asked, stepping closer. "Have you seen her before?" He leaned out slightly, squinting past me at Willow. His expression changed, recognition mixed with something sadder. Yeah, I saw her this morning. Around 9, maybe 10. Thought she was waiting for someone to come out of the woods." He shook his head. "She's still here?" "Still here." "Jesus?" He was quiet for a moment. "You try calling anyone?" "Not yet." "You should. Supposed to storm tonight. She can't stay out here." "I know." He looked at me like he wanted to say something else, then thought better of it. "Good luck," he said finally, and drove off. I watched his taillights disappear, then checked my phone. 7:34 p.m. If he'd seen her at 9 this morning, that meant Willow had been sitting here for over 10 hours. 10 hours on the same patch of road, waiting for someone who hadn't come. The rain started coming down harder now, fat drops that soaked through my shirt in seconds. I grabbed my jacket from the car, the good one, waterproof, and walked back to Willow. "Arms up," I said softly, then realized how absurd that sounded. I draped the jacket over her back, tucking it gently around her shoulders. She accepted it the same way she'd accepted the stranger's jacket earlier, without acknowledgement, without gratitude, without any sign it mattered. But she didn't shake it off. I sat down beside her, rain streaming down my face, soaking into my jeans. The asphalt was cold and wet and miserable. My phone buzzed. Rachel probably. Wondering where the hell I was. I didn't answer. Instead, I sat there in the dark next to a dog who refused to be saved, watching the road for a car that wasn't coming, and wondered which one of us was more lost. I called the non-emergency line at 8:03 p.m. The dispatcher sounded tired. "What's the nature of your call?" "There's a dog on Route 27, just past mile marker 14. She's been here for over 10 hours. I think something happened to her owner." A pause. Keyboard clicking. "Is the dog aggressive?" "No, she's just waiting. Waiting." "Yeah." I knew how it sounded. "Look, can you just send someone, please?" 20 minutes later, headlights swept across the road and a patrol car pulled onto the shoulder behind mine. A single officer stepped out, flashlight in hand, collar turned up against the rain. "You the caller?" he asked, approaching. "Nicole Chen, thanks for coming." He nodded, then swept his flashlight over Willow. She didn't react to the light, didn't even blink, just kept staring at the road with that same unwavering focus. The officer's posture changed. His shoulders dropped slightly. "Ah, hell," he said quietly. "You know her?" "The dog?" He stepped closer, angling the light away from Willow's eyes. "Maybe. There was a call earlier today. Medical emergency right around here." He looked at me. Elderly woman, collapsed in her car. My stomach dropped. "When?" "This morning. 8, maybe 8:30. He crouched down, studying Willow. "Dispatch said there was a dog at the scene, goldenretriever. They said she wouldn't leave, kept trying to get back in the ambulance." He exhaled slowly. "I didn't take that call, but I heard about it." "What happened to the woman?" "Don't know. They took her to Robert Wood Johnson. That's all I heard." He stood up, rain dripping off his hat. "What's the dog's name?" "I don't know. There's no tag." He pulled out his radio, spoke quietly into it. I caught fragments. "Welfare check. Earlier incident. Dog still on scene." Static crackled back. A female voice, muffled. The officer listened, said something I couldn't hear, then clipped the radio back to his belt. "Okay," he said. "So here's what we know. Woman's name was..." He paused, frowning. "Actually, that's weird. Dispatch has her listed as Pamela Harwick, but when I radioed the station, Jenkins said he talked to a neighbor who called her Annette." "What?" "Yeah." He shook his head. "And the EMTs logged her as Kristen. There's some confusion about her identity. How is that possible?" "Small town. People keep to themselves. Maybe she used different names with different people. Maybe she had memory issues." He looked at Willow. "Either way, she collapsed right around here. Paramedics said she was conscious when they arrived, but disoriented, kept trying to talk, kept pointing at the dog." The rain was coming down harder now. I pulled my soaked hair back from my face. "What did she say?" "I don't know." His voice was gentler now. "But I can guess." The truth settled over me like cold water. "She told the dog to stay." "Probably." And the ambulance left. And the dog obeyed. He finished quietly. "That's what they do." I looked at Willow, sitting there in the rain with my jacket draped over her back, still watching the road, still waiting for someone who'd been taken away in an ambulance over 10 hours ago, someone who might not even remember she had a dog, someone who might not be coming back at all. "Jesus," I whispered. The officer was quiet for a moment. "Look, I can call animal control. They'll pick her up, take her to the county shelter, see if the woman has family who can claim her." "And if she doesn't?" He didn't answer. He didn't have to. "Can you find out?" I asked. "About the woman? If she's okay?" "I can try, but it might take a while. High paw and all that." He glanced back at his car. "You should go home. Get dry. There's nothing you can do here." But I couldn't move, couldn't leave, because now I knew. Willow wasn't waiting for someone who forgot about her. She was waiting for someone who'd collapsed, someone who'd been taken away mid-sentence, someone who'd never gotten the chance to come back and release her from the promise. The officer headed back to his car, radio already in hand. I heard him talking, requesting more information, but the words blurred into the sound of rain hitting asphalt. I walked back to Willow and sat down beside her. "She didn't mean to leave you," I said quietly. "You know that, right?" Willow's ear twitched, and then, so softly I almost missed it beneath the rain, she whined. Just once. A small, thin sound that broke something open in my chest. It was the first sound she'd made all night. The first acknowledgement that something was wrong, that the waiting hurt, that some part of her understood. I pressed my hand to my mouth, felt tears mixing with rain on my face. This dog had been sitting here for 10 hours, through morning, through afternoon, through dusk and darkness, keeping a promise to someone who couldn't come back for her. And she'd done it without complaint, without breaking, without giving up, until now. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry." Willow didn't whine again. She just sat there, still facing the road, my jacket soaked through, her faith somehow still intact even as everything else fell apart. And I realized I was crying. Not the quiet, polite kind of crying, the ugly kind. The kind that comes from watching something so loyal, so pure, be abandoned by circumstance. The kind I hadn't let myself do since Mom's funeral. I wiped my face with shaking hands and made a decision. I wasn't calling animal control. Not tonight. Not until I knew for sure that Willow had somewhere, someone to go back to. The officer left at 8:47 p.m. with a promise to check on the woman, Pamela, Annette, Kristen, whoever she was, and call me back. I watched his taillights disappear into the rain and felt the night close in around us. Full dark now. The kind of dark you only get on rural roads with no streetlights, where your world shrinks to the small circle illuminated by your phone's flashlight. The temperature had dropped at least 15 degrees since sunset. My breath came out in visible puffs, and Willow was shivering. Small tremors ran through her body, rippling under the soaked jacket I draped over her, but she didn't move, didn't curl up to conserve warmth, didn't seek shelter. She just sat there, shaking, eyes still fixed on the road. "Okay," I said, standing up. My legs had gone numb from sitting on cold pavement. "That's it. You're coming with me." I walked to my car and opened the back door. The interior light felt warm and inviting. I'd cranked the heat earlier, and even now the seats were still warm. "Come on, girl." I walked back to Willow, kept my voice gentle. "Let's get you somewhere dry." She didn't look at me. I crouched down, reached for her collar slowly. "Just for tonight, just until we figure this out." The moment my fingers touched the nylon, Willow's body went rigid. Not quite pulling away, but not yielding either. A wall of quiet resistance. "Please," I whispered. "You're freezing." I applied gentle pressure, trying to guide her toward the car. Willow's paws stayed planted. She leaned back slightly, not aggressive, not scared, just firm, immovable. I let go. "Why?" The word came out sharper than I intended. "Why won't you just let me help you?" But I knew why. I could see it in the set of her shoulders, the forward focus of her gaze. Leaving meant breaking the promise. Leaving meant admitting that the person she was waiting for wasn't coming back. And Willow wasn't ready to admit that. Maybe she'd never be ready. A pair of headlights appeared in the distance, bright and sudden. Willow's whole body tensed. The car approached fast, too fast, and swerved around us with inches to spare. The driver laid on the horn as they passed. Willow flinched hard, ducking her head, but she didn't move from her spot. My heart was racing. You're going to get hit. Do you understand that? Someone's going to come around that curve too fast and they won't see you in time. Nothing. Just more shivering. I sat back down beside her on the wet pavement, felt the cold seep through my jeans instantly. My phone buzzed. Rachel again. I declined the call. I get it, I said quietly. I do. You made a promise and you're keeping it. That's what good dogs do, right? They keep promises. Willow's ear twitched toward my voice, but her eyes stayed on the road. I waited too, I continued. After Mom died, the doctors said it would be quick, peaceful. They were wrong. It took 3 weeks. 3 weeks of sitting in that hospital room, waiting for her to wake up, waiting for some miracle that never came. I pulled my knees up, wrapped my arms around them. Everyone kept telling me to go home, get rest, take care of myself. But I couldn't leave, because what if she woke up and I wasn't there? What if the one moment I stepped away was the moment she needed me? The rain had slowed to a drizzle, but the cold had intensified. I could barely feel my fingers. She never woke up, I whispered. And I never got to say goodbye. Not really. So I know what it's like to wait for something that's not coming, to hold on when everyone tells you to let go. A semi-truck blasted past, way too close. The force of air rocked both of us. Willow trembled harder but stayed rooted to her spot. But here's the difference, I said, my voice cracking. I had a choice. I could have left. I could have gone home, taken a shower, slept in my own bed. The waiting was killing me, but it was my choice. I looked at Willow, really looked at her, at the way her legs shook with exhaustion, at the dullness creeping into her eyes, at the way each shiver seemed to take more effort than the last. You don't have a choice. Someone made it for you, and now you're sitting here dying by degrees because you're too loyal, too good, too faithful to break a promise that should never have been yours to keep. Another car passed. Willow didn't even lift her head this time. That's when I realized she was fading. Not dramatically, not all at once, but slowly, incrementally, like a light dimming. The cold was stealing her strength breath by breath, and she either didn't notice or didn't care. Waiting wasn't neutral anymore. It wasn't just loyalty. It was killing her. I can't, I said, pressing my palms against my eyes. I can't watch this. I can't sit here and watch you choose death over breaking a promise. But what was the alternative? Drag her to the car? Force her? Betray the very loyalty I was trying to save? My phone buzzed again. I pulled it out, saw a text from Rachel. Where are you? I'm getting worried. I typed back with numb fingers, still with the dog. Don't wait up. Her response came immediately. Nicole, you can't save everyone. I stared at those words until they blurred. She was right. I knew she was right, but I also knew that if I left Willow here tonight, if I drove away and let her keep waiting, I'd never forgive myself. And if something happened to her, if a car hit her or the cold took her, I'd carry that for the rest of my life. I looked at Willow, shivering in the darkness, faith intact even as her body failed. Someone had to make the decision she couldn't. Someone had to break the promise. And I realized, with a weight that settled deep in my chest, that it was going to have to be me. It happened at 9:43 p.m. I wasn't touching her, wasn't even close. I was just sitting there, shivering, trying to figure out what to do next, when Willow's front legs gave out slightly. Not a collapse, not dramatic, just a small shift, a lean, and suddenly her weight was pressing against my side, warm, solid, Real. The first physical contact she'd initiated all night. I froze, didn't move, didn't breathe, terrified that any reaction would break whatever invisible barrier had just dissolved between us. Willow's head stayed up, eyes still on the road, but her body sagged against mine like she'd been holding herself upright through sheer will and had finally run out. "Hey," I whispered. "Hey, I've got you." My voice cracked on the last word, and suddenly I was crying, not the quiet tears from earlier. Full, choking sobs that shook my whole body. I pressed my face against the top of Willow's head. She smelled like rain and wet dog and something else, something faintly floral like old lady perfume. And I cried into her fur the way I hadn't let myself cry in months. For Mom, for this dog, for every broken promise the world makes and doesn't keep. Willow didn't pull away. She just sat there, leaning against me, shivering, waiting, always waiting. When I could finally breathe again, I wiped my face with my sleeve and shifted slightly so I could look at her. Her eyes were half closed now, exhaustion winning over vigilance. "I don't know if she's okay," I said softly. "The woman, Pamela, or whoever she was. I don't know if she's in a hospital room right now wondering where you are, or if she—" I stopped. Couldn't finish that sentence. "But I know she didn't want this for you. I know she wouldn't want you sitting out here in the cold, making yourself sick, waiting for something that might never come." Willow's ear twitched. She didn't understand the words. I knew that, but maybe she understood the tone, the gentleness, the grief. "She loved you," I continued. "I can tell. Someone who loves you doesn't adjust your collar the week before they abandon you. Someone who loves you makes sure you're taken care of." My voice dropped to a whisper. "She would have come back if she could. You know that, right?" Willow's breathing was slow now, deep and measured, like each breath took concentration. "But she can't," I said, "and I think maybe she'd want someone to tell you it's okay, to let go, to stop waiting." A car approached from the opposite direction, headlights cutting through the darkness. For the first time all night, Willow didn't lift her head, didn't perk up, didn't respond at all. She'd stopped hoping. I don't know which was worse, watching her hope die over and over, or watching her give up entirely. I wrapped my arm around her shoulders, pulled her closer. She let me. Her body was cold despite my jacket, her shivering constant now. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry this happened to you." We sat like that for a long time, minutes, maybe, or hours. Time had stopped meaning anything. The road in front of us was empty now. No cars, no headlights, just darkness and rain, and two figures huddled on the shoulder like the last survivors of something. The drizzle finally stopped. Clouds parted slightly overhead, and a sliver of moon appeared, pale and distant. Willow's breathing slowed further. Her eyes closed completely. For a terrible moment, I thought. But no. Her chest still rose and fell. Still here. Still alive. Just barely. "Listen to me," I said quietly, my lips close to her ear. "I need you to understand something. Whatever you're waiting for, whatever promise you're keeping, it's not worth your life. Do you hear me? You are worth more than this, more than sitting on a roadside in the cold, more than dying for someone who can't come back." Willow didn't respond. Maybe she was too tired. Maybe she was past the point of understanding anything except the weight of her own exhaustion. I looked down at her, this loyal, beautiful, heartbroken dog who'd kept faith longer than most humans ever could, and something inside me cracked open completely. "She told you to stay because she thought she'd be right back," I whispered. She didn't know. She couldn't have known, but I'm telling you now. My voice broke. You waited long enough. Willow's breathing hitched slightly, one small, shuddering exhale. You waited long enough, I repeated, softer now. You kept your promise. You were a good girl, the best girl, and now... I had to stop, swallow against the lump in my throat. Now you need to let someone else take care of you. The road stretched out before us, empty and dark. No cars coming, no rescue on the horizon. Just us and the silence and the unbearable weight of a promise that should never have been asked. I shifted, moved so I was kneeling in front of Willow instead of beside her. Her eyes opened slightly, unfocused, exhausted. I'm going to take you home, I said. Not because you're giving up, not because you failed, but because you kept your promise long past when anyone had the right to ask it of you. Willow looked at me, really looked at me for the first time all night, and in her eyes I saw it. Not surrender, permission. You waited long enough, I whispered one more time, and somewhere deep in the cold, quiet night I felt something shift. Willow's full weight settled against me at 10:12 p.m., not a collapse this time, a choice. She shifted her body, deliberately, consciously, and leaned into me completely. Her head rested against my shoulder. Her breathing steadied. And for the first time in 10 hours, she stopped watching the road. This wasn't surrender. This was trust. The difference was everything. Okay, I whispered, barely audible. Okay. I stood slowly, carefully, keeping one hand on Willow's back. She tensed. I felt every muscle tighten beneath my palm, but she didn't pull away. We're just going to stand up, I said softly. That's all. Just stand. I rose to my feet, knees protesting, legs numb and unsteady. Willow stayed sitting for a moment, looking up at me with these tired amber eyes. Then slowly, so slowly it hurt to watch, she stood. Her legs shook. She swayed slightly, and I reached out to steady her, but she found her balance. 4 paws on the ground. Standing. Good girl, I breathed. That's my good girl. I took one step toward my car. Just one. Willow hesitated. Her body stayed rooted to the spot, muscles coiled with indecision. I didn't pull, didn't coax. I just waited, hand resting gently on her collar, giving her time to decide. 5 seconds. 10. 20. Then Willow took a step, then another. Her movements were stiff, mechanical, like she was walking through water, but she was walking, moving, leaving the spot she'd occupied for 10 hours. We made it 3 feet before she stopped, turned her head, looked back at the road. My heart cracked watching it. That final glance, that last desperate check to see if maybe, somehow, the person she'd been waiting for had appeared in the seconds she wasn't looking. The road was empty, dark, silent, unforgiving. Willow's ears dropped. Her tail stayed low, and when she turned back to face me, something in her expression had changed. Not acceptance, exactly. More like resignation. The kind that comes when you've held on as long as you possibly can and your body finally overrules your heart. I know, I whispered. I know it's hard. We walked the rest of the way to my car in silence. Each step felt monumental. Each step felt like a betrayal and a rescue happening simultaneously. I opened the back door. The interior light illuminated the dry seats, the emergency blanket I'd retrieved earlier, the bottle of water still sitting untouched in the cup holder. Willow stopped at the threshold. She stared into the car like it was a portal to another world, like once she stepped inside, there would be no going back, no more waiting, no more keeping promises. It's okay, I said quietly. You can get in. For a moment, I thought she wouldn't. Thought she'd pull away, run back to her spot on the roadside, resume her vigil. But then, slowly, hesitantly, like stepping onto ice she wasn't sure would hold, Willow climbed into the back seat. She didn't lie down on the blanket I'd laid out, didn't settle into the corner. She just stood there, awkward and uncertain, too tall for the space, body tense. I closed the door gently, walked around to the driver's side, got in. My hands were shaking as I gripped the steering wheel. This should have felt like victory, like rescue. Like the good part of the story where everything starts getting better. It didn't. It felt like I'd just convinced someone to break a sacred vow. Like I'd talked someone down from a ledge and they'd stepped back not because they wanted to, but because they were too tired to keep standing. I started the engine. The car rumbled to life, heat beginning to circulate. Willow flinched at the sound but didn't try to escape. I put the car in drive, checked my mirrors, and pulled onto the road. We drove in complete silence. No radio, no sounds except the hum of tires on wet asphalt and the soft whir of the heater. I kept glancing in the rearview mirror, watching Willow. She'd turned around, positioned herself so she was facing the rear window, watching the road disappear behind us. Watching the spot where she'd waited growing smaller and smaller in the distance. Her ears were forward. Her body was rigid. And even though we were moving away, even though she was in my car and we were going somewhere safe and warm, part of her was still there, still waiting. "I'm sorry," I said quietly, not sure if I was apologizing to Willow or to the woman who'd told her to stay. "I'm so sorry." Willow didn't respond, just kept watching through the rear window until the road curved and the spot disappeared completely from view. Only then did she turn around. She sat down on the back seat, finally, and curled up into a tight ball, making herself as small as possible. Her eyes closed, her breathing slowed, and within minutes she was asleep. Not peaceful sleep, not restful. The kind of sleep that comes from complete and utter exhaustion. From a body that has nothing left to give. I drove the rest of the way home on autopilot. 20 minutes that felt like seconds. The streets were empty, the neighborhoods dark. Everyone else was already home, already warm, already safe. I pulled into my driveway at 10:47 p.m. and turned off the engine. The sudden silence was deafening. I sat there for a long moment, hands still on the wheel, staring at my darkened house through the windshield. The porch light was on. Rachel must have called ahead and asked my neighbor to turn it on. The front door was blue. I'd painted it blue last spring because Mom always said blue doors meant home. I looked in the rearview mirror. Willow was still curled up tight, still sleeping, still shaking slightly, even though the car was warm. And I realized I had absolutely no idea what came next. Getting Willow from the car to the house took 15 minutes. Not because of distance. My front door was maybe 20 feet from the driveway, but Willow moved like every step cost her something. Slow, deliberate, stopping every few feet to look back at the car, at the street, at the world she'd just left behind. I didn't rush her. When we finally crossed the threshold, she stopped just inside the doorway, taking in the space. Small living room, worn couch, bookshelves crammed with too many books. The lamp in the corner that Mom bought at a garage sale and I couldn't bring myself to replace. "It's not much," I said quietly, "but it's warm." Willow didn't move further inside. She just stood there, dripping on the hardwood, looking lost. I grabbed towels from the bathroom and dried her off as gently as I could. She tolerated it the same way she tolerated everything else, without reaction, without engagement, just enduring. When I finished, I set out a bowl of water and a plate of leftover chicken from my fridge. put them on the floor near the couch. "You must be starving," I said. Willow looked at the food, looked at me, then walked past both and settled down directly in front of the door, facing it, watching it, waiting. My chest tightened. "You are safe here. You don't have to watch the door." But she did. In her mind, she absolutely did. I left the food where it was and sat down on the couch, pulling out my phone. It was nearly midnight, but I couldn't sleep. Not yet. I opened Google and typed Pamela Harwick, New Jersey, Route 27. Nothing. I tried. Annette, Route 27, medical emergency, still nothing. Kristen, elderly woman, collapsed dog. The search results were useless. Articles about other emergencies, other women, other dogs, none of them hers. I switched tactics, opened Facebook, searched for Pamela Harwick in New Jersey. 3 profiles came up. None of them looked right. Too young, wrong locations, profiles full of beach photos and grandkids. I tried Annette, then Kristen, then Marlene. Nothing that fit. Whoever she was, she'd lived quietly, under the radar. The kind of person who didn't leave a digital footprint, who paid for things in cash, who knew her neighbors by face but not by name. The kind of person who could disappear and the world would barely notice. Except for this dog. This dog had noticed. I set my phone down and looked at Willow. She was still by the door, head resting on her paws, eyes half open, not sleeping, just resting. Conserving energy for the next vigil. "She was alone, wasn't she?" I said softly. "Like you, like me." Willow's ear twitched, but she didn't look at me. I pulled my laptop off the coffee table and opened it, kept searching. Hospital records were private, but maybe I could find something. An obituary, a news article, anything. 2 hours later, I found a single reference. A post on a local community Facebook group from that morning. "Ambulance on Route 27 this morning around 8:30. Hope everyone's okay." One reply, "I heard it was old Mrs. Patterson. Real sad, she kept to herself mostly." Patterson. Not Pamela, not Annette, not Kristen. Patterson. I sat back, rubbed my eyes. How many names did one woman have? Or had she been so isolated that different people just made up names, filled in the blanks, never bothered to ask? I looked at Willow again. "Is that who you belong to, Mrs. Patterson?" No response. But then again, Willow probably didn't know her person's last name either. Didn't need to. Love doesn't require proper nouns. At 2:17 a.m., I finally closed my laptop. The food was still untouched on the floor. The water bowl sat full and still. But when I looked at Willow, her eyes were fully closed, actually sleeping. It was the first real sleep I'd seen from her. Not the exhausted collapse in the car, but genuine rest. Her breathing was deep and even. Her body had finally relaxed, just slightly. I stood slowly, walked to the kitchen to get myself water. When I came back, I stopped. The water bowl had been moved, not much, just a few inches, and the surface was rippled, recently disturbed. She'd drunk something, not much, maybe just a few laps. But it was something. I sat back down on the couch, pulled a blanket over myself. Willow let out a long, deep sigh in her sleep. The kind of sigh that releases more than just air. The kind that lets go of things you've been holding too long. I watched her for a long time, this dog who'd kept faith longer than anyone had the right to ask. And I realized something. I wasn't trying to replace the woman she'd lost. I couldn't. Whatever bond they'd had, whatever life they'd built together, that was theirs. That was sacred. But maybe I could honor it. Maybe I could give Willow what her person would have wanted for her. Safety, warmth, Someone to wait with instead of someone to wait for. This wasn't about moving on. It was about moving forward. And there was a difference. I must have fallen asleep around 3 because the next thing I knew, pale morning light was streaming through the window and my neck was stiff from sleeping upright. I blinked, disoriented, then remembered. I looked toward the door where Willow had been sleeping. She wasn't there. My heart lurched. I stood quickly, scanning the room, and found her. She'd moved during the night, not far, just a few feet. She was lying on the floor next to the couch, next to me, not touching, not curled up against me, but close. Close enough that I could hear her breathing, close enough that she'd chosen on some level not to be alone. I knelt down beside her slowly. Her eyes opened, tired but calmer than last night. "Hey," I whispered. "Good morning." Willow looked at me, didn't look away, and for the first time since I'd met her, her tail moved. Just once, just barely, but it moved. The morning light came soft and golden through the window, the kind of light that makes everything look gentler than it is. I made coffee, fed the neighbor's cat that had somehow claimed half my pantry, moved slowly, quietly, aware of Willow's eyes tracking me from her spot by the couch. She was watching me differently now, not the vacant stare from yesterday, not the single-minded focus on something I couldn't see. She was actually looking at me, seeing me. When I sat down on the floor next to her, she didn't move away. "How are you feeling?" I asked softly. Her tail twitched. Once, twice, not a wag exactly, more like acknowledgement, like she was learning how to be a dog again, one small gesture at a time. I reached out slowly and rested my hand on her head. She went still, but she didn't pull away. I could feel her breathing, steady and deep, could feel the warmth of her body, the life still humming beneath the surface despite everything she'd been through. "I need to take you somewhere," I said. "Just for a minute, is that okay?" Willow blinked at me, those amber eyes clearer in the daylight. I didn't know if she understood, didn't know if she'd resist, but when I stood and walked to the door, she followed. We drove back to Route 27 in silence. The road looked different in morning light. Less ominous, just a stretch of asphalt cutting through bare trees, unremarkable in every way except for what had happened there. I pulled onto the shoulder at mile marker 14, the same spot where I'd found her yesterday. The same spot where she'd waited for 10 hours. Willow's entire body tensed when the car stopped. Her breathing quickened. She stood up in the back seat, looking out the window at the road, at the shoulder, at the exact patch of ground where she'd kept her promise. "It's okay," I said gently. "We're not staying. I thought you should see it one more time. Say goodbye properly." I opened the back door. Willow hesitated, then stepped out. She walked to the spot immediately, sat down in the exact same position she'd held yesterday, facing the road, watching, waiting. My heart seized. For a terrible moment, I thought I'd made a mistake bringing her here. Thought you'd refuse to leave again, that we'd be right back where we started. But then she looked at me. Just a glance, checking, making sure I was still there. "I'm here," I said, sitting down beside her on the damp grass. "I'm not going anywhere." We sat together in silence. Cars passed, fewer than yesterday, it being Saturday morning, and Willow tracked them with her eyes but didn't stand, didn't tense, just watched them come and go like they were part of the landscape, nothing more. After a few minutes, I spoke. "I don't know your name," I said quietly, directing my words to the empty road, to the morning air, to whoever might be listening. I don't know if it was Pamela or Annette or Kristen or something else entirely, but I know you loved this dog. I know you took care of her. and I know you didn't mean to leave her." A breeze moved through the bare branches above us, carrying the scent of rain-soaked earth and dying leaves. "I have her now," I continued, my voice thick, "and I'm going to take care of her. I'm going to make sure she's safe and warm and loved. I'm going to give her the life you would have wanted for her." I paused, swallowed hard. "So you don't have to worry, wherever you are. You don't have to worry about her anymore." Willow leaned against my side, warm and solid. "Thank you," I whispered, "for loving her enough that she waited, for teaching her what loyalty means, for giving her a reason to keep faith." Tears blurred my vision. "I'll honor that, I promise." We sat there for a few more minutes, two figures on the side of the road, saying goodbye to something neither of us could name, but both of us felt. Then I stood. "Ready?" Willow looked at the road one last time, a long, measured look. Then she stood and walked to the car without hesitation. No pulling, no resistance, no looking back. She climbed into the back seat, settled onto the blanket, and let out a deep sigh. I closed the door gently and got into the driver's seat. As I pulled away, I checked the rearview mirror. Willow wasn't watching the road disappear this time. She was lying down, eyes closed, head resting on her paws. Finally resting. By the time we got home, the sun was higher, warmer. The kind of morning that felt like possibility instead of grief. I let Willow into the house and she walked straight to the living room, not to the door this time, but to the patch of floor near the couch where she'd slept last night. She circled once, twice, then lay down, not curled into a tight ball of self-protection, stretched out, loose, taking up space. I sat down on the couch with my coffee and watched her. I watched her breathing slow. I watched her body relax. I watched her actively choose to be here. After a while, she shifted, moved closer to the couch, closer to me, and then, so slowly I almost didn't notice, she rested her head on my foot. The weight of it was everything. Trust and grief and fragile new beginnings all pressed together into one small gesture. I reached down and rested my hand on her head. She didn't pull away. "We're going to be okay," I whispered. "I don't know when, I don't know how, but we're going to figure this out together." Willow's tail twitched once. Then she sighed, deep and long, and fell asleep at my feet. Not because she'd forgotten, not because the waiting was over, but because for the first time since she'd been told to stay, she wasn't waiting alone, and maybe, just maybe, that was enough to start healing.